which is the fact that in September of this year, last year, September of last year, before the election took place, polling data showed that only 22% of Americans thought that the presidential election of 2020 would be free and fair. Only 22%. That was consistent with polling in 2012, 2008, 24, and the last time that my Democrat colleagues believed that they legitimately lost an election was 1988. That's what the polling indicated. What we've heard called the big lie over and over today by our friends from the left and the Democrats is something that they set the gold standard for in 2016 and for the last 4 years. The question of the audit, as I mentioned early on, was bizarre because my colleagues across the aisle want it both ways. So they repeatedly, as one of them said, it is shameful that we had this audit. They kept going on and on. The last gentleman just ripped Doug Logan. I don't know Mr. Logan. I don't know his history. They ripped that. They ripped the dark money, the funding sources they had problems with. They ripped everything they possibly could about the audit, and at the same time that they were attacking the audit, they simultaneously argued that it buttressed their position as to who won the election. I view that as specious, inconsistent, fallacious. I was asked who won in Arizona. I don't know, because there were statutory issues with this election. No election is ever perfect, but in my mind, we've not resolved the issues that took place at this time. I had more questions to ask. I don't have time to ask more questions. I'm going to go without asking those questions and maybe submit them in writing. Maybe we can get answers in writing. There is so much underlying this, and this notion that this was a fraudulent effort to get at the root of this election, I think that's abhorrent in of itself. We should have welcomed an audit. I regrettably have to say that in my view, watching from outside, it certainly looked to me like the board was obfuscating and trying to prevent an audit. My recommendation early on was just do a full and complete audit, get it over and done with. Resolve it. That's what I said in November. Resolve that issue. Put this thing to bed. And here we sit almost a full year later, and people still have questions about election integrity. I don't know how we're going to resolve that, but I do know that this continued antagonism towards this audit, while at the same time saying, well, it proves what we said, but it stinks, that's ludicrous. I would hope that we can have audits, meaningful audits. The audit that was conducted statutorily by Maricopa County, that was a statutory audit. But it really wasn't an audit. Nobody here would say, oh yeah, that's a full and complete audit. No, none of us would say that. It just isn't. It's meant to provide some kind of statistical reference point. And as Mr. Bennett, former Secretary of State of Arizona, pointed out, it simply was not even with a random sample. I had people who worked in polling locations who told me they came up and said they were concerned. I had people who worked on those boxes who said they were concerned. I think there's legitimate concerns. I'm not sure that the audit revealed those, but I can tell you what, both sides are further entrenched today than they were 6, 8, 10 months ago in Arizona. And that's a shame. That's a shame, and I don't know how we're going to resolve that. I'm going to yield 1 minute to Paul Gosar from Arizona.
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to just ask unanimous consent to submit several transcripts to the record of Democrats and Republican senators and many others raising the same concerns as myself and my constituents. I ask, and several articles for the record.
Without objection.
Last thing I want to aspect is to really hit home. Mr. Biggs made it very, very poignant. Is Code 52 US 271. It was passed by a Democrat majority over 50 years ago. It supports audits. It encourages audits and their findings. There is plenty of unanswered questions here. I talked about it earlier. Trust is a series of promises kept. The way you keep trust with the American people, with Arizonans, is be transparent. That's all that's asked. And when you look back at my testimony on January 6th, that's what I asked for. I asked for a 10-day moratorium to let any state have 10 days to look at an audit, to do it right. Look at Kill Chain. Please take the time to watch Kill Chain. It's hardly a conservative group that points it out. But this isn't a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is an American issue, getting it right. That when I cast my ballot for whoever is there that I cast it for, it goes there appropriately. And electronics, hand manipulation doesn't skew that aspect. That's all we're asking. So from that standpoint, I love the conversation back and forth, but I don't think people are bad like we're intending. Even Mr. Raskin introduced legislation because he saw electronic manipulation and problems. And it goes both ways, whether it be 2016, 2018, 2020, there's plenty to go around. So why not get it right this time? Why not be transparent? That's how you gain trust of the American people. Trust is transparency. Madam Chairwoman, thank you for the indulgence. I appreciate it, and I yield back.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I have some articles that I would submit.
For the purpose of putting items in the record.
Thank you so much. One is a piece from February 26, 2021, Arizona Republic. Another one from Representative Shauna Bullock, dated February 21, Washington Examiner. One from Glenn Greenwald, September 27th. A letter from Madam Chair to Honorable Trey Gowdy, dated April 5th, 2018. Another one from Representative Jerry Connolly, dated January 29th, 2018. And the last one from the Baltimore Sun, dated January 5th, 2017, entitled Rep. Jamie Raskin Not Seeing Electoral College Challenge for Trump.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Okay. We have been told that Mr. Keller has logged on. Mr. Keller is now recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Keller?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much to all our witnesses for taking time to testify before the committee today. Before addressing the subject of this hearing, I'd like to take a moment to urge the majority to use its oversight power to focus on any of the numerous crises facing our country, be it